Hello and welcome to Niche References, where I yap about my niche interests so that I don't annoy my friends and family with them. My name is Chris, and today I'm going to be yapping about a show that has lived rent-free in my mind for over a decade, The Mole. Season 2 of the Netflix reboot just premiered, and Netflix has done a really terrible job of marketing this show, so I'm taking the job into my own hands on this non-existent platform and making an entire episode dedicated to convincing you to watch one of my favorite TV shows of all time. Every episode of this podcast is self-serving in a way, since I'm basically just talking about whatever I want. But this one is particularly so, because the more people who watch and enjoy The Mole, the more likely Netflix is to keep making it. So I will talk about it and hope people listen. Alright, so what is The Mole? At this point, I basically have the elevator pitch seared into my brain. The Mole is a reality competition show in which a group of players compete in challenges to win money for the group, which eventually one player will win at the end of the season. The twist is that among them is a saboteur, the Mole. The Mole was hired by production and placed among the real contestants to sabotage missions and sow discord among the group. They are not a real player, they are a production plant. The main objective of the real players is to identify the Mole among them. Each episode, everyone takes a quiz where they have to answer questions about the Mole's identity and their activities throughout the game. The person who scores the worst on the quiz and is therefore least informed about the identity of the Mole is then eliminated, and the series continues like this until we get to the very end where the final three are left: a winner, a loser, and the Mole. The viewer is not told who the Mole is, so we get to play this whodunit mystery along with the contestants trying to suss out who among them is the Mole. The challenges in the show are a lot of fun, with lots of opportunities for mole sabotage, general backstabbing, and betrayal. Players can also win exemptions from the quiz, basically immunity for a round, but they often have to resort to underhanded tactics to do so, such as betting money from their winnings or sabotaging a mission and thus keeping the group from winning money. It's a really cool dynamic that allows any given player, mole or actual player, to act totally self-interestedly or be a team player, thus making nearly everyone suspicious as a Mole candidate. The season currently airing on Netflix is season 2 of the reboot, but the original American version premiered over 20 years ago, with this new season actually as the 7th overall American season due to lots of starts and stops and celebrity seasons throughout the years. And we'll get to that later when I explain why those earlier seasons are actually even better than the modern ones, but let's first chat about who this show is for. Present day, I think it's difficult to not immediately make a comparison to The Traitors. The first ever season of The Traitors actually aired at the same time as the Mole reboot in fall of 2022, but in the intervening year and a half, the franchise has really blown up, with several English language editions popping up around the world. If you've watched The Traitors and you like The Traitors, I cannot recommend The Mole enough. Obviously, people are not being voted off in The Mole, they're living and dying on their own suspicions and information, but there's a similar air of distrust and sabotage, and the exciting thing is that you as the viewer get to play along. We don't know who the Mole is, and that contributes a lot to the fun of the show. This is one of many reasons why I preferred The Mole to The Traitors, because nothing grabs me quite like trying to figure out who done it. Which of course leads me into my next recommendation, which is that if you're a fan of a good whodunit mystery, this is right up your alley. If you love a good murder mystery or a social strategy competition like Big Brother or Survivor, The Mole really sits in the middle ground here, because sure, they're not voting people out like in social strategy shows, but survival often depends on forming coalitions to share information, finding a couple people who you trust and can therefore eliminate as the Mole, and most fun, attempting to convince other people that you are the Mole, so that they aim some quiz questions at you and get themselves eliminated. It's a really fun whodunit game of social deduction and manipulation, backstabbing, and betrayal. Alright, you're still here, you stayed through the entire pitch, so I assume that you're at least mildly interested in the Mole, so allow me to take you one level deeper. Like I mentioned, the show originally started airing over 20 years ago, making this new season the 7th overall season in the American franchise. So I think it's totally fair to now be thinking, okay, I'm intrigued, but where do I start? I got you. let's chat about the history of the show. Fans of The Mole will unilaterally tell you that the first 2 seasons of The Mole are the best seasons. They aired from 2001 to 2002 and, very importantly, were hosted by the one and only icon, Anderson Cooper. Yes, that Anderson Cooper, news anchor Anderson Cooper, but in my heart he's just known as the best reality TV show host of all time because he is one of the main factors fans will cite as a reason these 2 seasons are so good. Both seasons have really strong casts, funny challenges, lots of chaos, but at the heart of it all is Anderson Cooper being an absolute goofball. Contestants will be frantically running around Italy trying to complete a mission just for the camera to pan over to Anderson eating a baguette and saying, "Wow guys, this looks really tough." There's a deep level of snark and cheekiness underlying his stint hosting The Mole, and it is a delight to behold. There's one infamous moment that every Mole fan reveres where Anderson Cooper goes full unhinged, and it's truly my favorite episode of reality TV. If you know, you know. Also, in addition to that, in my opinion, a lot of the charm of the first 2 seasons is that we were really in the wild, wild west of reality TV. These 2 seasons are much less produced, really heavy on the reality. Some challenges would never make the show today for safety purposes, and some of the people really did not understand how to present themselves on TV. It's reality TV at its realest. Next up, seasons 3 and 4 were celebrity seasons. No more Anderson Cooper, now Ahmad Rashad at the helm. It features the level of celebrity you'd kind of expect for Dancing with the Stars or The Masked Singer. Kathy Griffin is probably the biggest name, but you also get people like Stephen Baldwin, Keisha Knight Pulliam, Dennis Rodman, and Corbin Burnson. In my opinion, these are the 2 worst seasons of The Mole. The challenges are dumbed down for the celebrities, and somehow they still suck at them, and they're even worse at identifying the mole. There's still some fun moments here and there, but overall, they don't stack up to the civilian seasons, in my opinion. So then, the mole disappeared for a few years, but during the writer's strike of the late aughts, the mole was brought back for a 5th season. It came back again with civilian players and another new host, John Kelly. It's not as popular with fans as the original Anderson Cooper seasons, but definitely, in my opinion, a return to form. It features a more drama-prone reality TV cast, unlike the first 2 seasons where the casts were mostly people who were more sleuthy than drama-prone. And then we entered the Dark Ages, where the mole dropped off the map until Netflix picked it up again, airing the first reboot season in the fall of 2022. Obviously, with a 14-year gap, there were huge aesthetic and production changes, plus another host change to Alex Wagner. The cast of the first season can sometimes come off as the typical influencer wannabes, but the spirit of the mole is still there, and it's a really fun ride full of drama and backstabbing. And now, with the second season airing, they've gone for a slightly older cast of people who do seem to be more sleuthy than wannabe influencers, which is really exciting for me and something I'm really enjoying so far. Some influencer wannabes are still there, but there are fewer of them. So after that rundown, where should you start? In my opinion, there are 2 choices, and only 2. Either start with the OG Season 1 Anderson Cooper season, or start with Season 1 of the Netflix reboot. I think a lot of people would insist on the OG Season 1, and I would also personally recommend that, but I also recognize that it's a 23-year-old show and might not totally appeal to all modern-day viewers, and I don't want to put anyone off of this fantastic show. That said, the OG Season 1 is also the more accessible option because the entirety of Season 1 is available on YouTube, as is Season 2. I will firmly recommend not starting at any point other than those 2 seasons that I mentioned, because the mole has a habit of spoiling previous seasons. Past moles will show up, whether as a question in a mission or sometimes in person. Not even the celebrity seasons are safe from this. But the Netflix mole does not spoil any of the previous iterations, so just watch in order starting from either starting point. With the reboot, you're getting a more produced and snappy product. With the OG seasons, you're getting the wild, wild west of reality TV and the delightful charm of Anderson Cooper. My personal opinion is that the Netflix reboot is perfectly good. I really like it. But for the best mole viewing experience, the early seasons, especially the first 2, are required viewing. Feel free to start with Netflix. Please give the season more views. But if you enjoy that, I urge you to check out the earlier seasons. So that is my pitch to get you to watch The Mole. I wanted to make this a shorter episode, get in, get out, convince you that you gotta watch this show. Given that it's currently airing and I'm deep into rewatching older seasons, you can expect some more mole content coming up. I do think I plan to do a season ranking of all of the US seasons once this current season is finished airing. So if that sounds interesting to you, please make sure to follow me on whatever platform you're currently listening on, or vice versa. I have this both on YouTube and Spotify at the moment. And also follow my Instagram, which is where I'll be posting any updates, any fun little Instagram stories, stuff like that. All information and links are down in the description, so go ahead and give me a little follow if you are interested and come along with me as I make some niche references.